What if things change and you are not ready for it? I want you to sit with that question for a second because I don't think it's just a passing thought for most of you right now. I think it's something you are carrying every single day in the process of conversations that don't quite say it out loud, in the way you carefully choose your words when someone asks how things are going at work, in the quiet moments at night when your mind runs ahead of you and the worries get loud before you have even turned off the light. 2 weeks ago, I came across an article in Fortune that struck me cold. Only 1 in 5 workers feel like their jobs are safe. 1 in 5. And I didn't just read it and move on. I sat with it because this is not something happening out there in the abstract. You can feel it in real life. I hear it from corporate women who on paper are doing everything right and they still feel like the ground beneath them is shifting. I hear it from entrepreneurs who thought building something of their own will give them more control and are now realizing that uncertainty doesn't disappear just because you work for yourself. And I also hear from women at home who are carrying the weight of financial uncertainty for the entire family without even saying it directly. Because let's be honest, someone has to hold it together, and that someone is almost always them.
Welcome to At What Point, the podcast where we dive into the real, raw, and rewarding journey of personal and professional growth. I'm Catherine, your host, here to guide you through mindset shifts, powerful aha moments, and the resilience it takes to thrive no matter what life throws your way. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, taking the leap into entrepreneurship, or just looking for that boost of motivation, you are in the right place. Let's dive in.
Before we go any further, I want to slow this down and say something that I don't think gets said enough. And I want you to really hear this. You are allowed to feel this way. Friend, you don't need to rush to fix it. You don't need to convince yourself you're being dramatic. And you absolutely do not need to add another layer of pressure by telling yourself you should be handling this better than you are. Fear around the unknown is real. It is not a mindset problem. It is not a discipline problem. It is not something you can think your way out of by reading the right book or listening to the right podcast. It shows up in your body before it even becomes a conscious thought. Maybe in the tightness in your chest when you open your email first thing in the morning. Maybe in the anxiety that follows you through your day, even when everything on the outside looks completely fine. It shows up in how you talk to yourself in the car on the way home. It shows up at 2 in the morning, running through scenarios that haven't happened yet. And the thing that makes it heavier is that most women are trying to override that feeling instead of acknowledging it. They tell themselves to push through, to stay focused, to not let it show. And that strategy works, friend, until it doesn't, until the override costs more than you have left to give. So I want to start today by giving you permission to acknowledge what is actually happening before we talk about what to do about it. Because the women I work with who move through hard seasons with the most clarity are not the ones who pretend they were not afraid. They are the ones who got honest early enough to do something about it. Now, here's what I'm saying right now, and I want you to really pay attention to this because it matters. Most people are trying to solve this feeling by changing something outside of themselves. They start thinking about finding another job or finally launching that idea they have been sitting on or making some kind of move that will give them a sense of control again. And listen, I'm not saying those things don't matter. You already know where I stand on building something for yourself. But when everything feels unstable, the first place you have to stabilize is not your job, it's not your income, it's not your next career move. It's you. Because if you don't do that internal work first, you will carry the same pressure, the same fear, the same constant low grade tension into whatever comes next. You will get the new job and feel the exact same way within 6 months. You will launch the business and wonder why the anxiety follow you there too. The circumstances will change, but the weight will stay because you never put it down. You just carry it somewhere else. So today, I want to give you two real practical anchors, not concepts, not inspiration, two specific things that will actually change how you move through your days. The first is learning how to communicate what you actually need and set boundaries, even when it feels deeply uncomfortable, even when the timing feels wrong, even when every instinct you have is telling you to stay quiet and stay small. And I know that goes against everything most of you have been trying to do, especially if you have spent years building your identity around being the dependable one, the one who handles everything, the one who never makes things harder for anyone else. I want you to think about the last time something at work felt like too much. What did you do? If you're like most of the women I work with, you absorb it, you adjust it, you figured it out. You added to the invisible pile of things you are carrying so that no one else will have to be inconvenienced. And you told yourself, this is just what it takes right now. This is not the time to make waves. But here's what that pattern actually costs you over time. It's not just energy, it's not just bandwidth. It starts to affect your sleep. It affects your focus and your ability to think clearly. It affects the way you show up for your family at the end of the day when you have nothing left. It affects your confidence because somewhere underneath all of that absorbing and adjusting, a part of you knows that you have been abandoning yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. And that knowing accumulates. Communicating your needs is not you becoming a problem. It's not you being difficult or ungrateful or hard to work with. It is you protecting the capacity that everyone around you depends on. The second anchor, and I want you to stay with me here because this is where most people completely disconnect, is how you are actually restoring your energy on a consistent basis. And I want to be very specific about what I mean by that because rest and restoration are not the same thing, and most women have never actually experienced the difference. Rest is what you do when you are already depleted. It is, for example, sleeping in on a Saturday because you push yourself to the edge all week. It is maybe collapsing on the couch on Sunday night and calling it self care. It is the recovery that happens after the crash. Restoration is different. Restoration is intentional. It is something you build into your life before you hit empty, not as a reward for surviving the week, but as a non negotiable part of how you function. And the reason most women don't do this is because they are waiting to earn it. They are waiting for things to calm down, waiting until they have finished everything on the list, waiting until maybe they feel like they deserve it. And that moment, friend, never comes. So here's what I want you to do. And I want you to actually do this, not just like it sounds like a good idea. Once a month, you put a full day in your calendar that belongs entirely to you. Not a weekend where you are catching up on errands and laundry. Not a day where you finally get to the things you have been postponing. A real day with no agenda, no responsibilities, and nothing to produce. Maybe you wake up without an alarm and you sit with your coffee longer. Maybe you take a long walk somewhere that has nothing to do with productivity. Maybe you spend 3 hours in a bookstore or a museum or just sitting somewhere quiet that makes you feel like yourself again. The point is not what you do with the day. The point is that you choose it deliberately and you protect it the same way you will protect a client meeting or a doctor's appointment. Because here is the truth. By the time most women finally give themselves permission to rest, they are already so depleted that the rest doesn't fully restore them. They need days just to get back to baseline. This is about prevention. This is about choosing yourself before you have nothing left to give so that when the hard moments come, and friend, they will come. You are not running on empty when they arrive because living in a constant state of fear will consume you if you let it. It pulls you into every worst case scenario, every mental loop that makes everything feel heavier than it already is. And I want to say something to you directly before we close today because I think you need to hear this too. You are not starting from zero. You did not get here by accident. the strength it took to build your career, to show up for your family, to keep going through every season that tried to stop you, that is not something that disappears because of a Fortune article say 1 in 5 workers feel unsafe. That resilience is yours. It was built by you and it is available to you right now in this season if you stop abandoning yourself long enough to access it. So, as we close today, I want you to sit with everything we talk about, not as a checklist, not as two more things to add to your list, but as a real invitation to start relating to yourself differently in a season that is asking a lot from you. The woman who moved through uncertainty with the most grace are not the ones who had the most resources or the clearest path. They are the ones who decided early that they were worth taking care of. Not after everything settled down, not when things got easier, but right now in the middle of it. So let me leave you with this. At what point do you stop carrying everything on your own just to keep everything else from falling apart? And at what point do you decide that protecting your peace is just as important as protecting your position? The choice, friend, is not whether the uncertainty goes away. Friend, the choice is how you decide to stand inside of it. Before you go, if this episode resonated, you need to be on my email list. Every Wednesday, I send out marketing strategies, mindset shifts, and AI tips you can actually use. No fluff. Head to katherinebeltran.com/move, and I will see you in your inbox this Wednesday. Love the show? Hit subscribe. See you next time.